You ever find yourself scrolling through social media and you notice those people, you know the ones, they're always active, right? Liking, commenting, sharing stuff, but you realize you have never seen a photo of their face. It's a really interesting thing, and honestly, the psychology behind it is way deeper than you'd probably guess. So let's dive in and figure this out. I mean, it's a question we've all probably asked ourselves at some point. You see their name pop up, you see them interacting everywhere, but their profile pic, it's a cartoon, or a sunset, or maybe just nothing. So what is really going on there? Okay, so here's what's so interesting. Our immediate assumption, our gut reaction, is always the same, right? We think, oh, they must not be confident or they're insecure about how they look. But the psychological reality, it's usually something much, much deeper. And in a lot of ways, it's actually more of a survival strategy. It's not so much about hiding out of fear. It's about actively protecting their self-worth and their mental peace. So the first big reason, and this is a huge one that I think affects a lot of us online, is a very conscious choice to escape what we can call the validation trap. I mean, when you really think about how social media is built, it's basically one giant validation system. The whole thing is designed from the ground up to tap into our need for approval. We're talking likes, comments, shares. All that public feedback is exactly what keeps us hooked and coming back day after day. And this gets to a really critical difference in how we see ourselves. On one hand, you've got external validation. This is where your self-worth is kind of outsourced. It goes up and down with every single like and comment. But on the other hand, there's internal validation. Here, your worth is anchored to your own standards, your own values, and that is a much more stable and frankly healthier place to be. So here's the bottom line on this point. The people who don't post photos of themselves, a lot of the time, they're living on that internal system. They're making a choice to step away from that exhausting hamster wheel of posting something and then just waiting for everyone else to tell them it's good enough. They just don't need that outside proof to know they have value. Okay, the second big reason kind of builds right on top of that last one. It's all about avoiding the sheer mental exhaustion that comes with, well, performing for an online audience. And there's actually a psychological term for this. It's called hyperactive self-awareness. It sounds fancy, but all it means is that you're not just, aware of yourself, you're intensely self-monitoring. You're constantly picking apart every little detail of how you think you look to other people. So for someone who feels this way, posting a selfie isn't just a quick thing. It's a total minefield. It kicks off this crazy anxiety loop. First you think about posting a photo, then you start analyzing everything. Is my smile weird? Is the lighting okay? What's that thing in the background? Before you know it, you're just stressing about what people will think. And the mental energy it takes is it's too much. It's way easier to just not post at all. And this is a really important point to get. The decision not to post isn't always coming from a place of, ugh, I hate how I look. It's more of a protective shield. It's a choice to sidestep all that mental overload and anxiety that comes from putting yourself under a microscope. And this whole act of self-preservation, it leads us straight into our third point, which is this deep need to protect your real self, your offline self, by putting up a solid boundary. It's such a simple idea, but it's so powerful. Think about it. The version of you that's online, that's not really you. At best, it's a highlight reel, right? It's just one tiny piece of who you are. It is not the whole story. And by keeping their face offline, people are basically drawing a very clear line in the sand. They're saying this far and no further. And keeping that separation has some serious psychological perks. It's been shown to massively reduce stress. It protects your core sense of self from getting all watered down online. It stops that weird, slow process where your actual life just becomes content that you have to package up for an audience. It lets your real experiences just be real, personal, private, and authentic. Which brings us to our fourth and maybe most important point of all. It really all boils down to a fundamental choice. Are you living your life or are you performing it for an audience? Think of it this way. When your goal is to display an experience, your brain is split. Yeah, part of you is in the moment, but another part of you is always thinking, is this a good angle? What's a clever caption? You're thinking about that invisible audience. But when your goal is simply to live the experience, 100% of you can be right there, fully present in the moment. And for the people we're talking about, this isn't just some casual preference, it's a core value. The actual, messy, beautiful, real-life moment matters so much more than spending 10 minutes trying to craft the perfect post to prove to everyone that it happened. So, when we start to put all these pieces together, we get a totally different picture of that invisible profile, don't we? It completely shifts how you see it. So, the next time you come across one of those profiles with no photos, maybe pause for a second. It's probably not insecurity. It's more likely a really smart strategy. They're actively managing their mental energy. They're trusting their own internal compass for self-worth, and maybe most importantly, they are fiercely protecting their peace. And really, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this powerful idea. Once you learn how to protect your mind, you start living with a level of peace most people never reach. See, it's not about hiding from the world. It's about choosing to build a life for yourself that prioritizes a kind of inner peace that, in today's world, is incredibly rare and incredibly valuable.